This is your last call for My Wife the Dietitian. The show is just about to start.
Come on, let's go. Hurry up.
I'm trying. I can't get my shoe on.
Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian, a fun weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy lifestyle. I'm Rob, and together with my wife Sandra, we invite you to join us on this informative and entertaining journey through the complex world of healthy eating.
Join us each week as we strive to help you with transforming your overall health and relationship with food through up-to-date, evidence-based nutrition information. Feeling stuck? Sick of trying all the things to feel better, but nothing works? Should you eliminate certain foods or try and take many different foods out of your diet? Well, today we talked to Sara from BellyBlissNutrition.com to hear about why restricting your diet may do more harm than good.
For everyone out there that's like, oh yeah, that's nice for them, it can never work for me. It can. I mean, I had my own experience with, IBS and SIBO and reflux. Variety is the way through. Variety is the way to heal.
Stay with us.
Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hi, Rob.
How are you?
I'm great.
Awesome.
We're going to talk to Sara Kahn from BellyBlissNutrition.com today.
Belly Bliss.
Yeah, and can you tell what it might be about?
Making your belly happy.
Your stomach, digestive issues, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to cover everything from IBS,
which is
irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
SIBO,
which is
small intestinal bacteria overgrowth.
I'm guessing the people who have these conditions understand what these words mean. So
yeah,
I don't. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, we're going to talk about low FODMAP diets. We're going to talk about the causes of different digestive issues like antibiotics and food poisoning and disruption of the microbiome. We're going to talk about the imbalance of good and bad bacteria. We're going to talk about meal timing, protein, fiber. It's just jam-packed with really important information to help people that have issues with their digestion.
And all of those things are factors, are they?
They sure are.
Wow. Okay. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a very thorough episode.
Yeah, it's good. We're going to talk about how much protein people need in their meals and snacks, and how increasing the variety and diversity of your food instead of restricting and taking things out may actually be helpful instead of harmful, which is probably contrary to popular belief.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, yeah, sounds like a good one. We will be right back with Sara from Belly Bliss Nutrition.
Well, we're here today with Sara Kahn from Belly Bliss Nutrition. And Sara, please let us know who you help in your work and what you do, and give us a little bit of information about you.
Sure. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me on. I'm the founder of Belly Bliss Nutrition. We are a virtual clinic of sorts where we specialize in those who have digestive issues like IBS, SIBO, acid reflux, which in terms of symptoms translates to gas, bloating, abdominal pain, diarrhea, or constipation, or a mix of both. Essentially, our clients don't feel so good, and they've tried all the things. They've seen lots of doctors. They may have felt better for a short amount of time, but then they just can't get any traction. And so that's who we help. So we help them feel better as fast as we can while on the broadest diet possible.
Ooh, I like that part.
Yeah, I love the name. And I'm sure there's like, do you have a huge roster of clients? Is this something that affects a ton of people?
It does.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we see clients who typically failed, their own approaches, or, the doctor, the gastroenterologist that gives them the handout of the low FODMAP diet and says, here, try this. And, they're really confused when it doesn't work or they don't know how to get off of it. They didn't realize that was supposed to be a short-term elimination diet. Or, they've been given a prescription and the prescription's not working. So the prevalence of, IBS is like 30 to 40% of, at least here in the United States.
Wow.
So these are very common symptoms and conditions.
Okay, I just want to thank you for letting us know all that. But there's a few definitions. I'm just thinking because we're talking the lingo in the industry, and some people don't know what IBS or SIBO or low FODMAP might mean. So just if we could, just a lot of our listeners are they're not really going for help with their digestive issues, but they might need to. And I just want to pedal back a little bit and just describe what those things are.
Sure. So IBS stands for irritable bowel syndrome. So essentially your belly is angry. It's irritable. It's cranky. What this translates to is gas, bloating, abdominal pain, constipation, or diarrhea. It can be one of these things, could be all of these things. It's typically diagnosed by a gastroenterologist, which is a doctor who specializes in digestive health. And it's often a diagnosis of exclusion, which means they've ruled out diseased organs like celiac disease, which can affect the small intestine, or inflammatory bowel disease, which is an autoimmune condition where your own body attacks a portion of your digestive tract. So they rule those things out, and many doctors will say, like, well, you don't have this, you don't have that, it must be IBS. We do know now that there are numerous causes of IBS, and we help our clients navigate, what those potential causes could be. One of those causes is SIBO, which stands for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. When you hear the word bacteria, you might think of an infection, but that's not what this is about. We have trillions of bacteria in our digestive tract, mostly in the colon. That's where it should be. We play host to these trillions of bacteria and different microbes. Your listeners may have heard of the gut microbiome and how influential that is to our health. And things can be out of balance in the gut microbiome. And when too many of our good gut bacteria end up in the small intestine, things can go wrong. So think of it as too much of the good thing in the wrong place.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that's
too
what
far
SIBO
up.
is. It's too far up, exactly. And we need to understand why. Like, what's driving that? What's caused it? What's the root cause? So that's what SIBO is. And what was the other question? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. The low FODMAP.
Oh, low FODMAP. So low FODMAP is an acronym. I won't tell you what it stands for because it's a bunch of long words. But it is a diet that can help with conditions like IBS and SIBO and other digestive conditions where it does not eliminate, but it limits or reduces the amount of carbohydrates that can be fermented by these rogue bacteria or this imbalanced bacteria in the gut microbiome. So what does that mean? It means that, for example, Here's an example that many people might be familiar with: lactose. Lactose is a milk sugar, and many people are lactose intolerant. So you might have some ice cream, and then that's sending you to the bathroom. You might have gas, bloating, diarrhea. It usually happens 1 to 2 hours after having some type of dairy product. That is a type of milk sugar that can be hard to digest because you don't have the right enzymes to digest it. This can also occur with other types of sugars and carbohydrates. And that is why we use this low FODMAP diet, because we reduce the amount of carbohydrates that can cause that kind of fermentation, which then leads to the gas and the bloating, the digestive misery. It is supposed to be a short-term diet that helps you identify which types of carbohydrates don't make you feel so good. Mm-hmm. And then there is a period of reintroduction where you can just limit the ones that didn't work for you and then bring back the others. And that's how we should be using the low FODMAP diet.
Yes.
But oftentimes people get some relief and they think, wow, this is great. I feel so much better. And they stay on it, which can then lead to even more problems, because when we have very limited diets, and this might blow your mind, but the microbiome, the bacteria, can actually help us digest our food. And when we stop eating particular foods, those bacteria disappear. So it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, let's say you stopped eating garlic and onions. Well, if you stop eating garlic and onions, the bacteria that help you digest garlic and onions, they're going to go away. They're going to die. And then when you eat garlic and onions again, you're not going to feel so good because that bacteria is not there to help you digest it. So this is why we don't want to be on these restrictive diets for too long. They're tools in our toolbox.
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
You mentioned fermented foods. Is that something that these people should be avoiding, or is that something that's going to help, or it depends when they take them? Or because we know we've done episodes on the gut microbiome and the importance of eating fermented foods on a regular basis. So how does that impact someone with these issues?
So fermented foods are different from foods that can be fermented.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
I know that might be a little confusing. So for example, carbohydrates in particular can be fermented by the bacteria in our gut microbiome. They should be fermented, but when it gets out of hand or there's too much bacteria and there's too much fermentation going on. So if you think about fermenting beer, for instance, right? What happens? You get lots of bubbles, you get carbonation.
Oh, right.
And in my very scientific way of explaining all of this, bubbles plus bubbles equals more bubbles. So if you put more bubbles into the gut, you're going to get more bubbles. And if you're giving a substrate or the things that these bacteria like to eat and ferment, so in this instance, fermentation means eating. So the bacteria is eating the carbohydrates before you have a chance to digest them.
I see.
Fermented foods is a separate topic, and we could certainly go into that. But I just want to clarify what I meant by bacteria fermenting the carbohydrates.
No, that makes total sense. Because I guess when you're eating fermented foods, they're already fermented. So that process isn't taking place in your gut. It's yeah. Is that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We can go into that later then.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. And well, part of it too is like, just, how do people end up, like the root cause you mentioned, like, so if someone has to use a low FODMAP diet for a temporary time to try to reduce the symptoms, you said that this population and the amount of people dealing with digestive issues, I know it's like, there's a lot of root causes, but can you name a few just in our modern living? What are some of the reasons that you see people first contact you and say, I really need help because I think I have SIBO, or I think I have IBS, or like, what are some of the reasons and causes that are driving people to see you because of their symptoms?
Yes, so that's a great question. And many of our clients, they don't know what their root cause is. And so it's really important to take a very detailed health history. We also look at their medications and supplements. We want to understand what they're eating or not eating. Many of the top root causes would be taking frequent use of antibiotics, for instance. So, as helpful as antibiotics can be when we have an infection, many folks don't feel well when taking antibiotics. And there can be something called, antibiotic associated diarrhea or antibiotic associated IBS, where they take the antibiotics, they don't feel well, and they feel like, well, this will resolve once I stop taking the antibiotics, but it doesn't.
Oh.
And what's happened is the antibiotics has killed the infection that you had, but it has disrupted or wiped out, you could say, the good guys in the gut microbiome. So there's an imbalance there. One of the other top causes of both IBS and SIBO is food poisoning. And it doesn't have to be food poisoning that you had recently. It could be food poisoning that you've had in the last few years. But something like E. coli or salmonella or the norovirus, any type of gut infection. And it might not have even ruined your trip, or it might not have ruined your evening. It could have just been a little bit of diarrhea or upset stomach. So not everybody remembers, when they've had food poisoning or traveler's diarrhea. And that can lead to long-term issues down the road, where all of a sudden they start becoming more bloated and more gassy, and then they're constipated, or they might have, intermittent diarrhea that they just can't resolve, and they can't figure out, like, why do I even have this? In many cases, it could be a history of food poisoning or traveler's diarrhea. And with many of our clients, it's all of these things. Like, it's not just one thing. And then I will say another big reason for digestive concerns is chronic and acute stress. It plays a huge role with our client population, but stress can really alter the way we digest our food.
Right, because it's kind of you think of the nerves, that it's like the gut brain connection, and we have the vagus nerve, and we have like all of these, like the peristalsis is affected, and because it's related to what's going on in our digestive tract, like how we're thinking, you think the hormones and neurotransmitters with the cortisol and the stress and just our busy lives, and then eating on the run, and we're not actually sitting and like mindfully savoring our meal. We're just like not even chewing. We're just like gulping it down. Like, no wonder your poor gut.
Exactly. It's interesting because, researchers now consider the gut and the brain like a continuum. Like they have, like you said, they're connected through the vagus nerve, and stress can really impact digestive function. So yes, it can slow down the way the gut moves, but stress can also either increase or decrease your digestive juices. So you might not have enough stomach acid or digestive enzymes to digest the food that you're eating. Your body puts digestion on hold in times of stress. So if you're eating, while you're working and you're under a deadline to get something done, that stress can really have an impact on how you're digesting lunch. So when that happens over and over and over again, because we lead such busy, stressful lifestyles, it really can upset the way the food's digested, and it can really alter, again, going back to that gut microbiome, it can really alter the gut microbiome and cause an imbalance. It's what we call dysbiosis.
Yes. Yes. Wow. No, that's a good description. Eh, Rob?
It totally is. Yeah. I'm just processing everything that you're saying here. It makes me wonder about fasting too, because that's kind of the new trend, right? I mean, like we're talking about with the stress with eating. I mean, you think the answer would be to, you sit down, have a relaxing meal, have your regular meals, but then the whole trend of fasting has kind of come up, and I'm assuming that has a huge impact on your gut health as well. If you're not eating for a large portion of the day, I mean, that's got to have some impacts.
Absolutely. And this is something that our clients really struggle with is skipping meals, or they're trying intermittent fasting. And this can be really detrimental to gut health while you have ongoing gut issues. So I want to make it clear that intermittent fasting may be appropriate for some populations, but for our clients, this is not something that we promote. So, skipping meals can increase the stress response. And this is a population of people who are already stressed. So that's number one. Number two, skipping meals or fasting can lead to fatigue. It can lead to brain fog. It can exacerbate anxiety. It can aggravate constipation. So, these are all symptoms that our client base, they're struggling with, and they may not realize that the fatigue, the brain fog, the anxiety is related to skipping meals. They think it's because of their gut issues. And it's like, well, I mean, everything's connected, of course,
for sure.
But they don't necessarily realize that eating a meal at least 400 to 500 calories initiates peristalsis, which is that movement of food through the digestive tract. So in clients that are constipated, especially, we want them to eat balanced meals on a regular basis. And the other, especially in our client base, if they're skipping meals or fasting, what's going to happen? They're going to be so hungry that may lead to overeating for lunch, or if they skip lunch, they overeat for dinner.
Right.
And that can lead to a lot of digestive discomfort and gas and bloating, abdominal pain. They're connecting it to their IBS or their SIBO, but when they start having more balanced meals, they get relief.
Yeah, that makes total sense. For sure.
Yeah, I see that all the time in clients too. And it's the whole trying to, control belly fat or try to lose weight. And so they think, I'm going to fast so that I'm only eating one meal a day. But then they are in such discomfort from bloating and just the inability to actually digest that meal, because end up probably eating too much, and then you're probably not getting all of the nutrition that you need in a day. Like, how can you possibly get enough fiber and protein and all the macronutrients and the vitamins and minerals and all of these things that we need to keep ourselves healthy in one meal? Like, it's really difficult. So that's kind of what I see too.
Yes, those are great points.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And actually, speaking of macronutrients, what happens with, if someone's not getting enough protein in their meal, because I see that, like, people just have, toast and tea, or, they're not really having a balanced meal or a balanced snack. And when you said balanced, what I pictured was something that has some protein in it, some fiber. Like, what happens when someone doesn't have meals that include that protein food?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so much discussion in our space and in the wellness space about the importance of protein. And, we need to differentiate between, eating enough protein to meet your protein needs and then eating protein to, for weight loss or for other health goals. But, again, going back to this concept of, the other symptoms that our clients experience beyond GI issues like fatigue and brain fog and anxiety, that they can't focus, they don't have the energy to do the things that they enjoy doing. We really start, before we do any sort of elimination diet, we really want to make sure they're having balanced meals. And what does that look like? Like, what's an imbalanced meal? What does a balanced meal look like? So we just talked about skipping meals. Well, skipping meals is not a balanced meal.
Exactly.
Clearly, like
Right.
not having a meal, let's just check that off. Like, that's not balanced. But we often see our clients are having bagel and a coffee, or oatmeal and berries, which sounds really healthy, but that's not a balanced meal. Or they're having a bar, right? How many of your clients are like trying to get by having a bar? Or a banana, because these are easy portable things.
Mm-hmm.
Or, having a large salad with little protein. Salad sounds healthy, but again, it's not balanced. And what's missing here is they're not having enough protein to meet their needs. And, what happens in these scenarios? Well, for our clients, if they're not having protein, what are they having? They're
True.
having carbohydrates. And carbohydrates without enough protein and fat leads to blood sugar dysregulation.
Mm-hmm.
So that could mean spikes in blood sugar followed by fast dips in blood sugar. And these peaks and valleys of blood sugar can ultimately lead to inflammation, and that includes inflammation in the gut. And that can ultimately lead to prediabetes and diabetes. Also, skipping meals or undereating, again, leads to bloating, constipation, or alternatively, it leads to snacking all day, right? So they're just picking on things.
Right.
And when you don't have enough food with enough protein, then that leaves you really hungry for your next meal. And then if that meal doesn't have enough protein, you're going to be hungry like pretty soon, like within an hour or two. And then it just starts a cycle of grazing or snacking. And for our clients, we promote what's called meal spacing, where they leave at least 3 to 4 hours in between meals. Like, that's what we're working towards. They might not be able to do it on day one, but that's what we are working towards, is can you have a large enough meal so that you are satisfied for at least 3 to 4 hours? And what that does is it promotes a cleansing wave that moves through our intestines. And that cleansing wave helps our gut function better. And that's going to bring a lot of relief to the bloating, the gas, the constipation, and diarrhea. So this is what having more balanced meals looks like. And this is why we want our clients to have balanced meals.
If you're spacing your meals 3 to 4 hours apart, is that sort of including snacks or instead of snacks? Because that's, in my mind, that's kind of a big gap without having a snack in between. Or is it beneficial to not have a snack?
I think it depends. Everything depends.
Always.
It depends on, your health situation, your health goals, how active you are. If you are eating lunch at 3 and dinner's not until 7, well, a snack makes a lot of sense. So what we don't want to see is you have breakfast at 9, a snack at 11, another snack at 12, lunch at 1.
Right.
And just this constant eating all day.
I guess if you're eating enough at your breakfast, then you're not needing a snack at 11 anyway, right? That's probably part of the problem, is if you're needing to snack at 11, then maybe you're not eating the right amount of food or the right kind of food at 9 o'clock at your breakfast.
And we see a lot of that with nighttime snacking as well.
Sure.
So for folks who, have dinner and then they're hungry a couple hours later, then the question is, well, did you eat enough earlier in the day? And usually that answer is no. So it's exactly a great sign that you did not get enough food earlier in the day.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what you described is also, I think it helps with cravings. That's one thing that a lot of people ask me about, like, how do I prevent cravings? I just get such overwhelming cravings for sugary foods. And that's one thing we have to look at. Are you eating enough? Like, are you actually, eating your meals and snacks? Or are you skipping? Are you just eating snacks all day, like grazing? Because that can definitely lead to more cravings, especially in the evening.
100%. 100%. I have a lot of clients that, are eating sugary snacks or crunchy, salty snacks, and they have the cravings. And I said, look, I can't tell you to stop eating these things until we support your body with what it needs. And it needs protein. It needs to have balanced meals. And then we can talk about, replacing those types of snacks with something that's a little more health supportive.
When you're helping people that have like IBS or SIBO or acid reflux, everybody's different, but about how much protein would someone need, like when you're talking about in a meal or a snack?
So, like you said, that's going to depend. It'll depend on their age, their size, their life cycle, their health goals in general. We recommend anywhere from like 25 to 30 grams of protein at each meal. Like I said, we see people who have like smaller breakfasts or smaller lunches, or they're skipping meals and they have huge dinners, and it just leads to, hard to digest situation, and it leads to symptoms. So it's best if you can spread out your protein throughout the day. It just makes things easier to digest, and it keeps your blood sugar steady. So, your listeners may be wondering, well, what is 25? Like, what's 25 to 30 grams of protein? So, we can talk about, what does that look like? So I'll give you some examples. An egg has 6 grams of protein, depending on the size of the egg. And some folks have, 2 eggs for breakfast, and they think like, oh, that's sufficient. That's 12 grams of protein. So it's about half as much as what their needs are. So they may want to pair their eggs with some yogurt so that they have an additional source of protein. When you're shopping for meat or fish or poultry, at least here in the US, we're using pounds. It's usually sold by the pound. 1/4 of a pound would be about 20 to 25 grams of protein. And that'll vary whether it's meat, fish, or poultry. But you could, if they're the ones who are shopping for the food, think of a 1/4 pound would be a good place to start in terms of serving size. A lot of our clients will have a banana with almond butter or apple with peanut butter. And they're like, well, I'm getting some protein with the nut butter. It's like, well, are you? Like, let's take a look at that. So, for example, 2 tablespoons of nut butter is about 6 to 8 grams. So it's not very much protein. And for those looking for vegetarian sources of protein, there's tofu, there's tempeh, there's nuts, the legumes, and, that will vary, but tofu has between 8 and 14 grams per serving. So you'd likely need more than 1 serving of tofu to meet your protein needs. Or you would pair tofu with a higher protein grain like quinoa. So there are many ways to meet your protein needs, but those are just some examples of how much protein is in foods.
Now that sounds like a lot of food. To me, it sounds totally fine. I could easily eat that, and our son eats like 10 eggs for breakfast. So that's nothing for him. But, some older people, I'm guessing, are like, you want me to eat like 5 eggs for breakfast? That's not going to happen.
We're not saying are there ways eggs, Rob. I just want to make sure that people don't think.
No, I know. But
you have variety is key. And I think I heard one thing, you said help your clients feel better with the broadest diet possible. So that's that's really a key piece of the puzzle, is variety and diversity of the different foods. But anyways, sorry, Rob.
But it's still, whether it's 2 eggs and some beans on the side and some yogurt or whatever to get your 30 grams, but then you also need to get your other nutrients well. So I'm just thinking that's a big plate of food. Is that a bit of a deterrent for some people to try to figure out how to eat that much protein?
I'm here to say it's not that big of a plate of food.
Okay.
So
All right.
if you I'm looking at the palm of my hand. The palm of my hand represents approximately a quarter pound of meat, fish, or poultry. And for dinner, many people eat much more than just the palm of my hand. So they tend to have much larger dinners.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about eggs, yes, eggs only have 6 grams each. So it would be hard to meet all of your protein needs with just eggs. But certainly like Greek yogurt, where 3/4 of a cup is about 15 grams per serving.
Right.
So and Greek yogurt plus maybe some oatmeal and some almond butter and some berries, and then you have your protein, your fiber, and your healthy fat. So it doesn't have to be complicated. The most simple thing to do would be let's say you're having a quarter pound of salmon, which again would be maybe slightly larger than the palm of my hand, plus a side of beans, or maybe a salad with a serving of chickpeas.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be complicated. We don't need to make this harder than it needs to be.
I like
but
that.
We do need our protein.
Yeah. It's just
exactly.
understanding a new way of getting your protein into you, I guess, for a lot of people.
And a lot of people,
like you say, they think they're just eating an egg and they're getting their source of protein, but it's a lot more than that.
They need to rethink. It just brings an awareness to what they're eating, starting to look at the packages, the nutrition facts label on the package, and like, okay, well, what is a serving? 1 egg is a serving. So, they're going to need more than 1 egg, but they can combine their eggs with other things.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think
eggs is what they want.
I think that's really key, because I see so many people that are kind of trying to watch their calories, and they're like, kind of trying to also reduce or eliminate foods. And it's what I'm hearing from you is it's actually maybe, if we want to get the broadest diet possible, especially to help heal and to reintroduce some of the food back into their diet for the diversity, I think it actually helps. Like they've had maybe some elimination or restriction, or they've been seeing a practitioner who's said, okay, low FODMAP diet. But now they're in this kind of situation where they're continually just using the same 10 foods, and that's all they're eating. And this is what it's really important. And I'm so glad that we're talking to you today, because the message that I'm hearing that you're saying is we want to increase the variety. We want to stop thinking about calories per se, but we want to try to get more balance in the meals and snacks, and actually eat. And instead of, because I think people get so gun shy because they've had pain, or they get so, they're kind of in that whole SIBO kind of, what is it, like a cycle of oh, I've got SIBO and now it's been helped, but now I've got it again, or now I have reflux. And so this whole kind of cycle, and they just get so gun shy of eating. They just don't know what to do and what to eat. And it's kind of like going back to the beginning and okay, how are you chewing your food, and how are you eating your meals and snacks? Are you skipping breakfast? Are you trying other things like the fasting? All these things. It's just, it's complicated, but it doesn't have to be too complicated. Is that kind of what?
Yes, we do see a lot of that. We have a lot of clients come to us on their 10 safe foods, and they've been on those same 10 safe foods for a very long time, and they've developed fear of food, and they have a poor relationship with food now. And it really limits their enjoyment. It limits their social activity. It takes up too much bandwidth, like mental bandwidth, that they're always trying to navigate what they can eat because they're afraid it's going to make them feel poorly. And the first thing we do is we don't further limit their diet, but we want to help support their digestive function. We want to improve digestive function so that they're able to safely and confidently increase the variety in their diet. And we don't just say, okay, go eat whatever. We have a structured plan of, what types of foods can we safely reintroduce? And we start low and slow. We start with small exposures and we gradually broaden from there. And it can be really challenging to have clients feel safe and confident that their body is going to do what it should do. Yes. But I want to reiterate that the restrictive diets end up causing more harm than good.
Yes.
Because of that self-fulfilling prophecy of being on a limited diet and not having the variety can ultimately cause further imbalance of the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
So, it's like, how do we approach this? So let's just pretend that we have a client on a low FODMAP diet and they've had their same 10 foods. So we're going to first broaden within the low FODMAP umbrella. So we're going to look for other low FODMAP foods that they could potentially tolerate. And then we start, broadening beyond that. And we have a lot of success with that. We've had clients who have, been on those same 10 foods for years, and now they're eating all the things. I have a client who had been on the low FODMAP diet for years. He had constipation, bloating, abdominal pain, and reflux. So he had all of these things. And when he went out to eat, he literally only could get a piece of grilled fish and some steamed vegetables while he watched his wife and his friends enjoy the rest of the meal. That's how he was living. And when you're in New York and you have access to the best restaurants in the entire world,
Totally.
It's a bummer. It's a bummer.
Yes.
And this is how we did it, is we broadened first within the low FODMAP umbrella, and then we started broadening beyond low FODMAP. And now he no longer is constipated. He no longer has reflux. He can eat all the foods that he has limited for years, including garlic and onion.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And he is eating a much more balanced diet, of course. And he's doing fantastic. So
wow.
This is what we can do for our clients. And
that's amazing.
For everyone out there that's like, oh yeah, that's nice for them. It can never work for me. It can. I mean, I had my own experience with, IBS and SIBO and reflux.
Yeah.
And I was on a restrictive diet for a very long time. And garlic and onion and legumes were like my final frontiers. And now I eat beans or legumes every day. I put garlic and onion in everything. There is not one single thing that I don't eat anymore, except for meat, because I just don't eat meat. But I don't have to restrict. I don't have to look at menus before choosing a restaurant. I don't need to worry about going to somebody's house and wondering, what am I going to eat? Maybe I should eat before I go, which is what I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why it's so important. That variety is the way through. That variety is the way to heal.
I love that. Variety is the way
That's a great
through.
quote.
That is so true.
It is. That is the gut healing.
Yes.
I think therapists use that in their work where, to overcome anxiety, like you have to go through it to get to the other side. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true in gut health too.
And you
Oh my
are
gosh.
empathetic to the clients because of your journey. And isn't that why you got into it? Like, that's why you went and did your graduate degree in nutrition, because you had SIBO and you had all of these similar issues and you could not get help, or you weren't getting the right help and it was just getting worse. And now it's so great because you know what people are going through and you know where they can go and that they can get better, which is incredible.
Yes, it's a very frustrating, it feels very hopeless. And it's, as women, I think we're used to feeling dismissed by the medical community. I don't want to paint that picture for everyone, but I feel like a lot of women have that experience where they're like, oh, well, it's just IBS. And they're being dismissed by their doctors or practitioners. And at the time, I was diagnosed with IBS and given a handout on the low FODMAP diet and sent on my way. At the time, I was a vegetarian. And, at the time, the low FODMAP diet, this was years and years ago, very different version of the diet. I had to cut out beans and wheat and garlic and onion and avocados. And that meant no guacamole, which is my own personal food group. Like, what was I going to do? Like, it was a moment of despair. And then when I did the diet, it didn't, like, I felt better, but not entirely. Like, I still had a lot of gut health symptoms. So it took a few years before SIBO became more well-known in the medical and nutritional community. But I did eventually get diagnosed with SIBO. And it's been a long journey, but here I am. So yes, all of that to say is I get the journey. It's very frustrating. It's very easy to feel hopeless. And you really need to advocate for yourself to make sure you're getting the right tests, the right treatment, and the right approach to feeling better.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is so true. And it can be very individual, like depending on what's going on for the person and what their root cause is and their lifestyle factors and, the stress in their life and how they're chewing their food and any medication. So it can be very individual. And that's why it's nice having access to practitioners. And we're going to put your information in the show notes today. And where would people reach out to find you?
They can find me at bellyblissnutrition.com.
Okay. Awesome.
Love that name.
Yeah, I know. It's a great.
That's what we're all aspiring to have is Belly Bliss.
Exactly. I love it.
And they can work with myself, and I have 2 other amazing practitioners that they can work with as well.
So if
Right
you
on.
ever have do you guys have a party together? Maybe like a, I don't know, do a Christmas party with the other practitioners. And when you do, what would you bring to that party as a potluck dish?
We're all virtual. I'm in New York, Stacy's in California, and Ellen is in Chicago.
Wow.
So we have a virtual get together every week. But if we were going to have a party, it's interesting because, what I bring to potlucks now is very different than when I had digestive symptoms. Oh. So when I had digestive symptoms, I would bring low FODMAP foods that I would make that I knew I could eat, that I could tolerate. And nobody had to know that they were low FODMAP.
Right.
I just knew it tasted good and that I would be able to enjoy it. And nobody knew any different. So I would bring things like quinoa salad or a gluten-free pasta salad, or I would make my own hummus without garlic, but it was delicious and full of flavor. And nowadays there are so many great websites and even food products and spice mixes and all sorts of things to support a low FODMAP diet. But now I bring some fun food like deviled eggs.
Nice.
Or like a marinated shrimp cannellini bean salad. Something that, I enjoy, that everybody else will enjoy, and, keep it simple.
Love
Sounds
that.
delicious.
Yeah, sounds really good. And I like that you mentioned what kind of dishes you would have brought if you were on the low FODMAP when you were dealing with your own struggles with the symptoms. And that gives some ideas to people that might be in that situation at this point, like some quinoa salad or gluten-free pasta salad or hummus with no garlic, as you said.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. So, and that's, it's really important not to skip social occasions. It can be really isolating and it's no
Mhm.
fun. And on the flip side, I also know how you feel when you show up to the social occasions and there's nothing for you to eat. That's a bummer too. So, one way to solve all of that is to just bring things that you enjoy, that you can tolerate, that you can share with everybody else. And the host or hostess is going to be thrilled to have one less thing to serve.
Totally.
True.
So, always ask, don't be shy.
Oh, that's great. Wow. This is such good information. And wow, bellyblissnutrition.com. I really appreciate that title. And I think that's really speaking to your clients, like what they can help or what they can get out of working with you, getting some belly bliss and nutrition.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. Oh, good. Well, oh, my goodness, we covered a lot there. And do you have any other questions, Rob?
No, I think I can. I'm going to be processing for a little while, and then round two, we'll hit you up for round two, and we can cover
Rob's
some
going to
more.
be counting his protein
That's not true.
meal.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem eating. It's not a problem for me. But I think of someone like my parents who are like, "Oh, one egg, that's a lot." I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to get like all this protein you need? But anyway, we sort of covered that. So.
Yep.
But yeah, I did go through the stage though of sort of looking at how much I was eating and the protein and you get used to reading labels. You swap out a piece of toast for maybe a bit more beans or some of the protein foods, and you change it up your plate a little bit. But yeah, you figure it out, adapt, and it all works.
Yeah, and this is something you don't need to do every single day. I feel like, once let's spend a week, just trying to get a sense of how much protein is in what types of foods. And there are tools you could use like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal. I don't recommend you doing this day in and day out, but take a few days and just plug it in and see, just to give some awareness around what you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Then you don't need to obsess over it.
But yeah, just being aware, I think, is the key. So
we'll put a link to those apps, so Chronometer and MyFitnessPal, in the show notes, just so people will have a idea if they want to start tracking their symptoms and their intake for a while, just to see, if that can help.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
There we go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your information with us today and taking your time out to talk to us. We will direct people to your website, and hopefully you can share your belly bliss with others.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our
All
pleasure.
right,
It was great talking with you, Sarah. Thanks so much.
Take care.
I love that she said that she helps her clients feel better with the broadest diet possible.
Oh, you're all about variety.
Absolutely.
That's good. And it's nice when other people are on that page.
Yeah.
You know what's cool? I like that you guys as dietitians are able to have success helping people. Like, we hear so many success stories, and you just talking about people that you're working with and having like success. It's great that there's solutions to the issues that people are having, because there's nothing worse than living with something body related that's just like dragging you down and stopping you from eating or enjoying life. And so it's nice that you guys have solutions most of the time for these issues.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of clients that I see, they come to me after seeing another practitioner who's been eliminating foods from their diet and restricting their diet and taking things out. Whereas I really like that Sarah said, quote, restricting diets does more harm than good.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like that, especially with her patient population. So
yeah, and it's something I see over and over again too. So yeah, a lot of times we can start to add things back in, and that is actually super helpful for healing and energy and getting more of your nutrition. So as a dietitian, I like to add foods in rather than take out and restrict and limit and go on this diet and try this and take this away. And here's your 10 foods that you can eat. It's just, anyways, it's frustrating to see that. And I feel sorry for people when they feel like they can't eat anything.
yeah, exactly. So thank you again to Sarah for joining us today and sharing her insights. And if you want more information about her, you can visit her website. It was bellybliss.com. Love that name. It just is so perfect for
Belly Bliss Nutrition.
Oh, is that it? Belly Bliss Nutrition. We'll have the link in the show notes. So just have a peek there. But yeah, definitely check her out. And if you want more information on what we're doing, check out our website. It's mywifethedietitian.com. You can send us your questions too. If you are interested in hearing about a certain topic, let us know. We're more than happy to put something together into an episode. You can sign up for a newsletter while you're on the website as well. That's a once a week free newsletter that comes out through your email. If you're interested in that, there's recipes, nutrition tips, all sorts of fun things. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Check us out there. Don't forget to rate and review the show. That's super helpful to us. Also super helpful to people looking for an awesome show to watch or listen to. And don't forget to share with your friends. That's also super helpful. So that is it. We will be back Wednesday with Nutrition Nuggets. Something awesome coming up, I'm sure, as always. So until then, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.